Hey everybody, and welcome to Series Month. This is the month where I go over 4 films in a single series. Let's get started with this week's episode. It's Blade. I'm Zach Bishop, and welcome to 4 Films. In 1998, New Line Cinema released Blade. While not the first superhero movie ever, it was another superhero milestone, following the likes of Superman and Batman before it. And by having it be a superhero film that was rated R, an amazing opening scene, and a really good cast, it made this, as the kids say, an absolute banger. Hell, even as a kid, I knew some shit was going down with it being rated R. I'm like, Blade? He's that dude I saw in Spider-Man. Rated R? What do you mean? A couple of F-bombs and decapitations later, here we are. But this film introduced the entire world to the characters from the comics, Blade and his nemesis, Deacon Frost, played by Wesley Snipes and Stephen Dorff, respectively. This film really has a little bit of something for everybody, and it does have a few flaws that keep it from being a perfect movie, but it's still a very good movie. And that's kind of the beauty of it being a good film, is that it doesn't have to be perfect in any sense. It doesn't have to be this big event or anything like that. It can just exist as is, and people go, yeah, that's a good movie. That's a great movie. And really, aside from the bombastic nature of some of the fight scenes and even some of the editing, it was 1998 and they were trying new things that were leaning towards the 2000s, which, not a good direction for film, but sadly, that's part of it. But I say this because the best scene in the film, to me at least, is where Blade and Deacon Frost just talk. They just have a nice little chat in the park. And I really think if they would have focused on this moment and used it as a template for the rest of the film, it would have had that kind of focused restraint that would have made it an excellent film. So while it's not considered the greatest or probably even a classic, I still think this movie's an 8 out of 10 for me, and sadly we move on now to the sequels, each trying to ice skate uphill. So that means next, of course, is Blade 2. For some reason, people like this awful film. Bad story, bad CGI, bad acting, bad dialogue. And yes, the first Blade film wasn't Shakespeare by any means, but it didn't have Norman Reedus, aka one of the worst modern actors in cinema and television, portraying a character named Scud. It also has Ron Perlman as a big, probably racist vampire. So what's happening in Blade 2? Well, basically there's a new virus called the Reaper virus, which is turning vampires into Reapers, or Reaper vampires, and they're basically just crackhead vampires that need to suck blood out of anyone and anything. Part of the problem with this was, why did they feel they needed to up the ante on Blade 2? Instead of just, telling another good Blade story, they're like, no, we gotta have something crazy, we gotta shake up this whole vampire thing. Why? There are dozens of stories from the comic books that they could have used. So I don't know why they went with this. Really, they should have introduced the other characters from Tomb of Dracula and kind of followed suit with that. So anyway, Patient Zero is this guy named Novak or whatever the hell, and his asshole father gave him the Reaper virus in the first place. I don't remember why, who cares, doesn't matter. The point is, Blade and the Blood Pack... Blood Pack, a group of vampires who works for the asshole father, if I remember correctly, they have to stop them because the Reapers are going to get out of control and kill everyone and everything. So I get it, there's a purpose somewhere in there. But the most interesting part of the film is that Novak is kind of really the hero. I mean, yeah, he wants to destroy everything because of the Reaper virus, but it's like, He personally doesn't want that. He wants to get revenge on his asshole father for turning him into a monster. And then he does. And you're like, okay, so the bad guy won? So yeah, after all that, here's the crazy part. I don't care. I don't care about any of this. This film goes out of its way to tell you this stuff and act like it's all cool and whatever, but it's like, I don't give a shit. I don't care about this at all. And to top that all off, they undo Whistler's death from the first film. Why? And Wesley Snipes is already acting odd in this one, so he seems out of character from the first film. And you can see how this is all going to slide downhill further when we get to Blade Trinity. Now, the one thing I've said before when I mentioned Blade and Blade 2 in other videos of mine is that this film was directed by Guillermo del Toro. So there's no excuse why it's this bad. And then the third film is directed by the writer/director David S. Goyer, who wrote Blade 1 and Blade 2. Never directed before as far as I know, so he has at least the excuse of, it's my first day, which I said in the other video. But Guillermo doesn't have that luxury. There's really nothing in it that says, yeah, this is an improvement from Blade 1, because it feels like they took everything from Blade 1 that was good and then very much half-assed it. So while this one is half-assed, this next one is whole-assed, but with full incompetence. Which means I'm talking, of course, about Blade Trinity. Okay, so everyone hates this movie, but it's made the exact same way as Blade 2. Blade's annoyed. There's a new threat. There's a new team. The new team dies. The new threat is defeated, but also still kind of winning. It's the same movie. It's the same movie again. So what I'm saying is, yes, I agree with the public on this one. It is a bad film, because David Goyer is not a director at all, and barely a writer, according to most. So I could see why this one failed. What this has that is at least interesting to me is that they finally brought in Dracula, a different version of Dracula, but Dracula, and the very end of the film. The ending implies that Blade can now disappear and live out the rest of his life however he wants. The world thinks he's dead. But also, Dracula tells him that the thirst will overcome him eventually. That he'll become a vampire, a full vampire, no matter what. So it's kind of a weird feeling of, wait, so all this for that? Like, Blade's gonna lose in the end? It's dark, and I didn't say it was a good thing, but it is interesting that they chose that for their last film. Not a big triumphant, hurrah, everything's great. More of a, you're screwed either way, buddy. And despite this dark, ominous ending, the sad part, again, bringing it up, is that this film did nothing new in a good way, just like in Blade 2. And Whistler dies again. Okay. Breathe. Also, this film gifted us with Ryan Reynolds in the era of playing every superhero character he plays like Ryan Reynolds. And in this, he plays Hannibal King. No, he does not. He's objectively not anything like the character from the comic books. Oh, and there's a dog with the Reaper virus. Or at least a couple of them. And I don't know why. And Triple H, the wrestler, as a vampire with metal fangs, because, God damn it, movie, why? So you watch all 3 Blade films and it's over and you're like, well, that was really bad there for the last 4 hours or whatever. So bad, in fact, that you're like, well, I guess that's it. There's no more Blade. There's absolutely no more Blade. House of Cthulhu. This is technically the 4th film. It's the first 2 episodes of the TV series. And it's okay. Like, it's not better than Blade 2 or 3, but it does have the benefit of not repeating their mistakes, but on a much smaller TV budget. And there's nothing wrong with having a smaller production value. I mean, some great films were made for barely any money. You can't deny that. That is not a deciding factor, but does kind of guide the way that it's going to go. And in this case, I think it actually kind of helped focus on the story and what the story is going to be, because they knew it was going to branch out into a full series, hopefully. The first thing you may notice is Blade looks, well, a little different. That's because in both the Ultimates universe and then eventually the 616 Marvel universe, Blade changed his look to look like this. So when the show was coming out in 2006, Wesley Snipes obviously was not coming back at the time, so they got the rapper, Sticky Fingers. Now, Mr. Fingers is no Wesley Snipes, but at least he kind of gives a shit a little bit, so he gives more of a performance than Snipes did in 3, and sort of in 2. And they do mention werewolves and Mark Spector Moon Knight, so this film gets an extra point. Which brings us to our rating system of this episode. Out of 10, we're going to rate each one. First Blade film, 8 out of 10. Blade 2, 3 out of 10. Blade 3, 3.1, only because of the addition of Dracula and that dark, ominous ending. And they tried to bring in the Night Stalkers, even though that didn't really work. And finally, Blade House of Chthon with a 4.5. The 4.5 is strictly because they had Randy Quaid out of nowhere, and he was talking about his associate Mark Spector, who is Moon Knight, and how he knows about werewolves. I mean, that's like the only live action thing about Moon Knight we've had until the show comes out. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can join the Patreon at patreon.com/TheBisness to help support the making of these videos and everything else I do on my channel. Thanks for watching. Now, if you'll excuse me, there's worse things out there than vampires. It's me. Okay, what the hell
How
is
you doing,
going
Chief?
on?
Easy.
Stop that.
We want our little friend to hit up on the back of a milk carton now, will we?
Some comic books. This isn't good.
It's nice to finally meet you, man. I've had my eye on you for years. I know everything about you. Your serum, Whistler, that you're secretly a great jazz musician. Jazz fan. Hey, it's a start, right? The goal, of course, is to be like you. A jazz rocker. We've got the best of both worlds. All of our strengths, none of our weaknesses as jazz fans. Well, maybe I don't see it that way. Oh, so it's back to pretending we're human again? Come on, spare me the Charlie Mingus routine. You gotta stop denying what you are, man. You think the humans will ever accept a half-breed like you? They can't. They're afraid of you. And they should be, the way you mix jazz and a fusion. You're an animal. You're a fucking maniac. Look at them. They're cattle. Pieces of meat. Each one waiting to be eaten by a music genre. It could be pop, underground metal, or God forbid, country. Morality doesn't even enter into it. We're just a function of natural selection, man. The new race. The jazz race. Looks like your emo makeup's running.
Oh, shit. Hey, gotcha, Will.
I'm offering you a truce. I want you in my jazz band. What, you think I'm stupid? Mi nombre es el Diablo Blanco y quiero hablar en mi banda de jazz para el mar. You're familiar with the jazz god. Frost, you're nothing to me but another dead jazz fan. You're an idiot, you know that? I came down here offering you an easy way out and you spit it right back in my fucking face. Careful. Why do I care? They're nothing but musical cattle, just like you said. You want to take the hard road, be my guest, pal.
Why can't I go home?
But I promise you, when this is over, you're gonna wish they never cut you from your mother's jazz class. Some motherfuckers are always trying to understand jazz.